Here we go. Yep. I want to call the meeting to order. First thing on our agenda is the flag salute, so we will go ahead and do that. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Hey, before we go on with our agenda tonight, I wanted to invite Mr. Mulkey to come up and introduce the culinary arts program that provided our meal this evening.
Well, thank you so much. It was outstanding, as I think everybody will attest to that. But I got a tough job here. I'm just going to introduce our culinary instructor, Scotty Barnable, and he'll introduce the kids that helped serve here tonight. The other thing I wanted to say, though, real quickly, is I'm really excited about this group. Come up, guys. I'm really excited about this group. They are going to they took over this year the hospitality room for our 3 state volleyball tournament. They did an outstanding job. And now they're going to do the basketball tournament coming up. And so they're looking for donations to help with that hospitality setup this year. So hopefully people that are listening or something like that, and they can get a hold of me. And the money goes back to the culinary program. Perfect. Scotty, take it over.
Hi there, I'm Scotty Bornable, first-year chef instructor. Not to drop, we also have a fundraiser coming up next month at Restaurant O, I believe on March 13th. Would really love some support for that too, to kind of promote our culinary program. I'm gonna let the students introduce themselves. They all had a participation in what you all ate tonight. Everyone did a little bit of a part. So we broke down whole chickens, and we braised the legs and thighs. We sous vide the airline breast. For you all that don't know what sous vide is, it's in a cryovac bag and it's in a circulator, so you cannot mess it up. And so I love those. So we sous vide the breasts at 145 about 2 hours. Did a poached pear salad. The poached pear was actually a red wine. Poached pear was an alcohol-free red wine. It has some orange juice, some oranges, and they took care of all that. And then we did the dessert was a chocolate raspberry mousse. So it was in a mold. We piped in the chocolate mousse. We had raspberry mousse on the inside and a gluten-free chocolate cake. So I'll let the students introduce themselves.
I'm Melissa Dollarhide.
Tell us your year.
What year are you in?
What year are you in?
Oh, I'm a junior.
I'm Brandon Dewey Daniel. I am a sophomore at Marshfield.
I'm Avery King, and I'm a freshman.
I'm Maureen DeGarmo, and I'm a junior.
Thank you all so much.
Yeah, it was excellent.
Thank you very much.
Fantastic.
Are you guys hoping for careers in the field?
I am. I was hoping.
Well, you never know what the future holds, so we'll see.
Yeah.
I think if they don't continue a career, to actually understand food and understand like how to make
Yes.
things from scratch goes a long way. You can get things a lot cheaper and utilize a lot more when you do things from scratch. We're actually trying to get a fish program going. So we're going to be doing some fish butchery as well. I know people are going to love the smell, but to have the protein and understand how to utilize the whole fish is going to be very important. So
Especially here on
That's
the
great.
coast.
especially here on the coast. So like make fish fumet, kind of fish stocks from that. So I'm really hoping we can do a lot more.
And we have in my superintendent report tonight, we have the flyer for the
Oh,
Restaurant
awesome.
Row event. So
Thank you very much.
Good.
Yummy.
David added that today. So thank you.
Thank you all very much.
Thank you
guys.
very much. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a wonderful evening.
You too.
Hey, Marina. How am I? Can I see?
Okay, next up is,
Oh,
I'd like
I
to motion
like
to
that.
approve today's agenda.
thank you, it's been moved. Do I have a second? Okay, it's been moved and seconded that we approve the agenda. Is there any objection? Hearing none, the agenda is approved. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda? Okay. Kevin made the motion.
I will second.
Eric seconded. It's been moved and seconded that we approve the consent agenda. Is there any objection? Hearing none, The consent agenda is approved. Which takes us right up to Warren, who unfortunately is not here. Possibly will be late. We'll see if he shows up. Our Destinations Academy rep, Faith, we knew she was not going to be able to show up tonight. She just let us know that. And so we're on to public input. Seeing no public in the room, I'm assuming that no one signed up for public input. CBEA business, you guys are gonna love me tonight. Mr. Crook is unable to appear, so this agenda item will be moved to next week or next month. And now we're up to Marina.
Hello. So first off, I have the check listing for January. There was nothing of significant note that I had identified, but I wanted to know if anyone had any questions, including the checks.
I was wondering, it looks like we had two separate checks to Amazon Capital Services, both in the one was for 7,000, one for 10,000. What did we get from Amazon? That's what is that capital service?
Typically a lot of school supplies, and our buildings all ordered through the district Amazon account, and so depending on when the bill comes through, we may reference out multiple times in a month, depending on our large excess items. So without pulling it, my assumption would be that they didn't reconcile it at the end of January or end of December, because there wasn't very much, but then we reconciled it twice in January.
And then there was a $17,000 check to SPVB Inc. No?
I do not, but I can get that for you. You said
SPVB Inc. was for Sandwich Compound.
Yes, I will pull that up.
And then last question on those, just looks like we got almost $7,000 to virtual building for this district. What does it virtual do for the district? What's that?
I believe they do web purchases as well as some athletic items. I'll have to pull those up too. Yeah. And I can email you all when I have that information. I'll share with everybody on the board. Sure. Yeah, of course. Any other questions on the check listing? Okay. On to the board report, the financials, and I would like to apologize for how late those came. I had 6 children at home, and I wasn't here last week. And then because of the date of the bank reconciliation coming to our office, we don't typically get it until the 36th of the month, and then to do the full reconciliation and then have all that data to then input it here. With the board meeting being so early, it is sometimes a challenge, but I was able to take that for you. There was not any significant changes between this and the December register. Honestly, we don't have a lot of outstanding bills in January. It's pretty typical monthly items. None of our allocations or our projections increased or changed significantly. Does anyone have any questions on the general fund?
Did you have to work on the weekend?
Oh, sure, yes. But my kids are healthy-ish, and we're thankful to be here. I am thankful to see adults today.
So, and what we forecasted roughly $2 million shortfall for next year.
Yeah.
For budget, yes. In terms of, we are finally projecting at the end of this year to be at the board policy ending fund balance of 5%. We really worked on getting that down. During COVID, we had extra monies that could be used to supplement. And so we moved a lot of general fund expenses into ESSER and then moving them back into general fund when that money expired. We intentionally had a really high beginning fund balance because we were offset so many expenditures. And now we've been working to go back down to the board policy of 5%. Per budget committee goals and board goals, which was retaining as much staff as possible over the last 3 years. And so we are projecting to have a $2 million shortfall in next budget year because we will have finally gone to that 5%.
Is it 5% or I thought it was 4%? 2.5 to 4.
The policy can be a little convoluted to read. The way I read it is a 5% as ending fund balance that we do not budget, and then a 2.5% to 4% contingency above that. And so we need 5%, and then also a 3% contingency.
Okay. And on that note, just a reminder from, I think I presented this during our last meeting, but might have been a meeting before. Marina and I and the cabinet, we're going to be starting to meet with the building staffs coming up here next. I think our first one's actually this Friday. And we will visit with every building staff, give a presentation on the budget, enrollment, things like that. And then we will share that and also with you folks afterward. I wanted to be the buildings the first time you see it versus.
Yeah, and part of that will be opening up to board and building input on what some suggestions are to adjust for that shortfall. But it's been pretty anticipated for that. At this time, we're projected to be above our budget and fund balance of 5% at the end of this fiscal year. Special revenues, no significant inputs or changes other than we are now switching from doing quarterly grant planning because we have primarily all of our grant allocations and grant approvals this year. So now we go to monthly grant planning. So you'll frequently see this change more because it's a more accurate representation of resources that have come in as we are getting claims and revenue more often.
Just not sure around the time, but just a quick, like, are there things that we should be doing now so that our fund balance is higher when we start next year?
We are working during this fiscal year, Superintendent Roberts and I, to work on adjusting as much as possible by things like absorption through attrition. So we have positions leave during this fiscal year. We are evaluating whether or not that's something that we replace in the current year, or if we hold that and add that to our new fund balance for next year. This year, we will be far and above the 5% new fund balance. But no, we're not in a position to look at it.
Yeah, and even looking at like things like spending freezes for the buildings, they don't do a significant amount of. They don't save us enough money to carry over to the next year with a big implication. That's something. But every position that has Officer Scoville, I still call him. I guess I can call him Lieutenant, Captain, Chief Scoville. His position we're going to absorb. That saves us probably roughly $40,000 for the remainder of the year. We have another position that's in the same boat. So between the two of those, we're close to $5,000 for savings. And we're kind of looking at it as every, not that we want people to leave us mid-year, but when they do, we're looking and saying, is this something that we absolutely need to rehire right now, or can we sit, wait, make a better decision budget time?
So with those absorptions, we're still looking at being at our 5%, and then you said our contingency of 3% next year. So those are looking pretty solid.
Yeah, we are still within those. This is just an additional threshold to keep us above that, and to lessen cuts or adjustments that we will need to make next year. We've really been in a stalemate of the forecast in February that we're really waiting to get that to determine what this year's state school fund development would be, because at ODE they're talking about cuts, and so we are, as a state, waiting on that forecast of revenue that came in last year, or last week, that you're going to talk about, I believe.
Yep. I'll talk about it right now.
Oh, you want to talk about it right now?
Yeah. So as you may have read in the email I sent last week, the March forecast, it comes out in February, it's the March forecast, was roughly 250 to 300 million more than they had anticipated. So we're down to, it was $1 billion back in kind of September that they were thinking, mainly because of HR1 and how that was going to have implications in the state tax revenue. We're down to about 500 million, and as a state, and there are some components. There's a couple of Democratic bills in the House and Senate that could take us partially off the federal tax system. which could be another 300 million. So I met with 7 legislators Thursday and Friday, and they're very cautiously optimistic, but I think the Education Stability Fund will be used to backfill anything that's needed to keep us going in the second half of the biennium. All of them are very nervous about the first clip in 2027. That's coming. We had a lot of good conversations, and I will say that we, compared to some of the other districts, and I don't want to name them, in the state that are talking $25-30 million in cuts. If you look at our kind of per pupil need to trim funds, we're in a better position than they are. Like if you look at one of the Willamette Valley schools that has to cut close to 30 million, you equated that to kind of our numbers of students versus their number, we would be up in like $5, $6, $7 million in cuts. So we're in a better position than quite a few of the districts that are around the state of Oregon that are kind of in the same boat. Some of them for different reasons. A lot of them, like Corvallis, I will, because I've talked with Ryan Dawson, they're looking at reconsolidation of schools because of their enrollment has just plummeted since COVID. And that's kind of the reason we're in the boat we're in. We talked about it today in our admin meeting. I mean, graduating, 180, 190 students between Marshfield destinations, but we're only getting 160 kinders in. And that's been a pattern for about the last 4 years. And it's birth rate in our city, our county. I mean, every district school in our ESD is in the same boat. We're graduating more than we're bringing in, and so it's having that trickle down effect on our budget. So I think looking at birth rates for our county and city, they've stayed consistent. So I think if we're about 5-ish years away, maybe 6th graders, 6 years, to where we'll be 160 kind of across the board. We'll kind of graduate 160 and bring in 160, and we'll stabilize if birth rates continue.
So we're supposed to get a spike because of COVID, right?
It doesn't appear to when we look at it.
That would be our first graders, kindergartners.
Yeah, they'd be
Yeah.
kindergarten, first graders now, though.
We're not expecting a spike.
That's interesting.
And a couple of our area districts are really concerned because projections are for them, some of our smaller school districts around, they could be less than 20 incoming kinders for the first time. And they've always had enough for one kinder class. And now they're starting to get worried they might not even have enough kids to really fill.
So our birth rate's going down by what, 10%? I mean, is it birth rate only? I mean, do we have the numbers on that, and where are we gathering those numbers, just from the hospitals, or?
So the county provides
Right.
those numbers based on zip code. And then we have had analytics of our projected enrollment. When we did that long-range facilities plan,
10%.
they projected it out based on birth rates, homeschool rates.
That's what I was gonna
A
say.
number of things, and I can share that with all of you after this meeting. It was flowed into analytics, and they're projecting about a 10% decrease. That was at 2023 to 2032. They were expecting about a 10% decrease, and that's been pretty on par.
And we need to do a better job with the students that are either going homeschool, going to different online programs, looking at different options. We do a better job of selling our options. And I've talked with folks. We're working on a plan for kind of a branding of Coos Bay schools, because not to get to the data meeting that's coming up at the end of the month, but like our students that are taking online classes, their completion rate is 92%. That's a really solid, good completion rate. I've talked to a couple families as these forms are coming in to go to Oregon Connections Academy, Baker Webb. I've been calling these families to say, hey, we have this program, and some of them are not aware. Some of them aren't aware of what we're offering in the program. So we realize that we need to do a better job of selling. We're going to get some families back. I've talked two out in the last week of saying, would you give our program a try? And both of them were like, we didn't even know you had a program.
Right.
So we need to do a better
I've
job.
crossed that so many times now. Friends going to Winter Lakes. I mean, they did a really good, they had a billboard up. Did a good job of selling it. It's before Wayne, so it's Tim.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
So Kayla and I are working on that. David and I, we talked about it today about some stuff on the website that is a real one click right away. Visit our online programs page. we offer more AP, more dual credit options for online. We can offer kids that can do hybrid schedules, and we're really flexible. So
Thank you for that. Talk about enrollment, which will come up in a little bit. Does anyone have any other questions on the other funds? There's nothing significant note. January is a pretty quiet month. We don't have any significant payroll increases or anything like that. In the second semesters, so we'll see some purchases more for those second semester items in February. On to my next item, which is the January special revenue funds. Again, I'm sorry I didn't have these to you guys until today. Please take a look at them. Email me if you have any questions. These are essentially just updated from January with any increases or expenditures. We're projected to spend in all of our grant allocations. Our student body fund looks healthy. Our scholarship fund looks healthy. Our radio fund, we finally have a couple months of expenditures as well as a couple months of revenue that has started to come in. And so I'm hoping by June we'll have a positive in that account. But there's not anything else significant because these are all preliminary grants. And we spend within our allocations and we report to them for federal or state requirements. So if you guys have any questions on anything, have to find that or shoot me an email and I have to show you all of them. But just give I like to get into the weeds, does not mean everybody likes to get into my fun 200 weeds. And lastly, enrollment. I pulled it as of, I believe this was Friday, because I wanted it to not be the first day of the semester. So this is a weekend, and it kind of gives us a good picture of who's there and where people are at. There's really not a huge change. There was a little bit 9 loss at the high school, 4 loss at the junior high, which is not significant. Sunset actually went up 8 students from last time I pulled this in here today, which I'm thrilled about. The other thing you'll note is that online in January it went from 164 to 208 as of this reporting. We are really struggling from a reporting aspect with Leanne's Energy because we have students who are taking online classes through this program. They're dual enrolled. So their number is showing up at all destinations for Resource Link or at high school, then also showing up in this online number, which is why I don't provide the total for you because I can't calculate actually at this time what that is until I can pull out each individual student of that 208 and see where people are. Where are they taking the most classes? Where would I qualify their APM? But I believe there was a good push in second semester that if you could take some online classes to give that a shot, which is why that significant increase is there. This is their second semester push in is my assumption from looking at schedules and looking at numbers. We didn't lose a ton at the high school to then feed into this. My guess is that more students are taking online classes.
Number that jumped out to me for folks that have been on the board for a couple of terms was, I believe this is before I came to the district, but I believe the goal in redrawing the boundaries when Eastside opened was to balance Madison and Eastside's enrollment numbers. And if you notice, Madison has more students enrolled now than Eastside.
Mm-hmm.
That used to be a close to a 75 kid difference. So I think the boundaries that were redone 2018-ish, 2017-ish, the fruits of that labor are now shown here in the data that Madison is now 2 kids better than Eastside.
Yeah, I would agree. They started the year about 2 kids higher, and then they deviate every month, but they're really, really close now. And they now, this year, for the first time, have the same number of classes in each grade level at each building, which is really great for grade level style. So, yes. Does anyone have any questions on any of those elements?
No, I only have a question on this bill that's in the House, I believe right now, or the Senate about class sizes. How would that affect?
I don't think it'll affect us because we survey went out from COSA last week too, that we already have a recommended class cap within our contract, and that was part of the survey was, do you have something in your contract already? If so, is it a hard cap? Is it, levy. So I took a survey on that last week. I think the area of that bill that has some concern though is there's also some components that have been added to it about safety, staff safety, student safety being mandatory subject for bargaining. And I think the thing that concerns me, and I voiced this to some of the legislators, is safety is in the eye of the beholder. If there's no, what does that definition mean? Then, because currently there is not one in the bill.
Yeah.
If there's no definition, then you're leaving it up to a lot of, the objective view as to what that means. And so I thought there was some good feedback and good conversation that I had. It's easy if it's in the bill that says if you get over X number of students, you need to bargain. Okay, that's what it is. But I think when you're talking about some of the other components about safety, makes it a little troubling. There's a couple other bills that are out there about chronic absenteeism. That's not going to change for us at all. That's an ODE reporting mechanism that they're making a bill about, some legislation. So we'll continue to report to ODE through Synergy R attendance. It's how ODE then turns it, uses ODE reports that's subject to that bill. And then there's a bill right now also about instructional time for elementary students and removal of students from the educational
I
setting.
saw that one, yeah.
And there are some components of that. I think that from talking with legislators, that is probably going to be a bill that's going to not be acted on in the short session, but it's going to get a lot of airplay in the long session in 2027. Some good conversations. I think you could see in 2027 also the chronic absenteeism laws that were taken away during COVID. Some of those may be put back in the books. So that was a discussion that was had in several meetings. But it was very interesting there. A lot of the legislative assistants that are working with these representatives and senators, several of them were school board members. So when we were visiting, it's like, wow, I'm a board member and fill in the blank, and we see that too. And it was like, oh, okay, that's great, thanks. You know, so lots on the horizon, but I think the long session next year is going to be a real long session. So
Megan, did you have a question?
I was just curious. I know we can't get in the reporting, but at some point I would love to know, like, how many kiddos are 100% online, and then how many kiddos are marked
Hybrid.
hybrid, and then how many are destinations hybrid.
Who has all that?
I have it.
information?
I have it on my desk. I'll mosey down there maybe in a moment. I'll grab it. We can keep that. She gave me a note card.
Okay.
Perfect. I was like, I saw her spreadsheet and she can pull all of that. I just don't have that. And in Synergy, there's not a like a whole who's taking what and what percentage of going on it is. It's basically possible.
And then remind me, do we have the option, like, Connections Oregon or whatever the other options are? I know that there's like kinders that can go on that, I believe, and
Urban Oregon Connections Academy.
Yeah. Like for second grade, I think do we have that option for our online as well?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, and we've
Okay.
actually switched, and we're in the process of switching from a platform called Accelerate to Accelis, which I
Okay.
think you're aware a little bit, Ryan, of Accelis.
Okay.
Accelis is a company out of Kansas City that we've been using. Their online platform, we've had rave reviews from families that are using it. Much more interactive, much more having, like, they go on walking tours of Boston when they talk about the American Revolution and things like that. We're getting a lot of positive feedback from the elementary component and the AP component.
So my sons are for sort of test piloting.
Yes.
Accelis at elementary level, and they after a full day of school and after the piano, they will ask to log on to learn and do this schoolwork because they actually enjoy it. And when I've looked over their shoulder, it has one of the things they really enjoy about it is like the social studies piece. So kind of like that Boston tour or other things like that. It seems to be a very strong for an online program.
Yeah, a lot of positive feedback from the family that have been doing Accelerate that we've switched over. And we've also used it with some of the buildings with some of our students that need a change of pace during the day. That might be some of the behavioral classrooms. And we've had a lot of really solid participation out of those things. So
And lastly, and
Yes.
I know this wasn't your segment, but there's apparently some legislation about, completely went out of my
When you think of it, remember it, or when you remember it, just
Yeah.
let me know. Yeah,
So when we have some of these kiddos who are having maybe a harder time being in the classroom and maybe having some behaviors, are we actively looking as online as an option? Maybe half day, they can be in the classroom, and then are we providing like a space where that maybe they can go online and do the other things at an elementary level, junior high level?
we haven't provided a space so much. Some of them are using some small windows of space. I should say that they have a classroom they've been using, but when it comes to students that maybe are like hybrid days at the elementary level or abbreviated days, they're doing that second part at home.
At home. Okay.
But part of our March presentation, Kayla and I will be presenting our alternative plans and priorities. So we'll hear about some things.
I think it would be interesting to see if that would help some kiddos be successful or have time staying in class.
Yeah. Agreed.
introduction of curriculum. There's some legislation coming out about changing curriculum introduction or something.
I haven't heard that one, but I will.
I don't know. I'm going to a OSBA webinar about it.
I'll do some digging on that one. That hasn't came up in the COSA discussions.
Okay.
Before I'm done.
Sorry.
No, you're good. Contract renewal. We are currently up for renewal for our transportation and our food service management companies. We are working to get new bids, extensions. We will provide those to you when we have them, but we are currently looking for projects to get some 1-year contract extension with the next financial year.
And is there any chance that if North Bend does change their provider, that together we could get a little better deal?
I think that when Marina
Or
and I,
does it just give us flexibility?
I think when Marina and I had some conversations with her student, if it would certainly be to our benefit in some ways and possibly financially. I don't know to what extent financially, a couple percentage.
Yeah.
SPVB Inc. That is for volleyball field students from high school. And then I'm still searching.
That's the prepaid camp that comes and does the summer stuff. That's kids 6 through 12. They come and do the camp at our shift. I think they have other schools that don't do them too. It's great.
And Eberto is a annual payment for a golf simulator. With the golf club. They're purchasing.
They purchased that. So that must be having paid.
That's the annual payment.
Was that the 1,200 or the 6,000? There's two checks here.
Well, mine are all paid out by PO, so I'm looking at 4 different POs that were paid. That payment was for $5,250, and then there was one for Puerto for window coverings for $450. One to Puerto for soccer team backpacks for $900, and one to Puerto for golf simulator portion payment software for $250. So all of those were broken out into 2 separate payments.
Thought you were gonna ask something else.
No, not the cameras on it. Talk later.
You're bad.
That was Derek's question.
Yeah.
Yep, those are just what I had. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. I believe my screen went dark. So I'm going back to my agenda. I believe we're at the superintendent's report, aren't we?
We are.
Yeah.
We are. Happy February, everybody. Let's see if we're going to work tonight. Let's see. There we go. All right. Just a reminder of superintendent goals. And tonight,
Hold on a second. Click. Get a speaker.
tonight for my presentation, I want to talk about and look at what they. Yep. I think that messes with it. I know. Don't get a buzz or anything.
I'm over here. Come out.
Still. Are you gonna click me through?
Sure.
Okay. So tonight we're going to talk about graduation rates. The graduation rates came out last month or earlier this month in January. And so that goes right towards board goal number 1, raising academic expectations and outcomes for the district. And if you want to go ahead and click, you're determined to get it going. All right. So I kind of looked at the graduation rates the same way that I did back when we looked at data, when I looked at our county schools, and then I picked some schools that are within similar demographic sizes, communities as Coos Bay to show where we're at. Got it?
I think so. Worked for
Yep,
me.
there we go. Look at that. All right. So looking at our district graduation rate, we had a graduation rate of 75% as a district. That's a 6% increase from the previous year. We are still working on cleaning some things up in our
Is
system.
that the 4-year graduation rate or is that the 5-year?
That's
graduation?
4-year graduation. 4-year graduation rate. And we're still working on cleaning some things up. We have a couple of areas when we look at how Synergy is taking kids from the junior high, and then when they leave us, we have records requests, but some of the students, when the records leave, they're not getting pulled out of Synergy. And so we cleaned up a bunch of kids that were in the system that shouldn't have ever been in the system. Some of them never stepped in Marshall High School. So we had some clerical errors that we think have been slipping through the previous few years. We also have a couple of programs that their students are reflected on our graduation rate as a district that like AYA, the students that go to AYA, their students are reflective of Marshfield's graduation, even though they don't go to Marshfield High School at all.
Right.
Because ODE changed their formula a few years ago. And if you are in a district-sponsored program, you are counted towards the district graduation rate of the high school that
The home
the
school.
home high school. And so we've worked on some things. We're working on some things to kind of address that. Scott Cooper has also been very not happy with that because he has his own ODE school code. He is an accredited high school.
Right.
And he's even a little frustrated on, so why are these students being counted as Marshall? Some of them have never gone to Marshall.
Right.
And so keep in mind as we're looking at that, so our Marshall graduation rate is effectively Marshall and AYA. So we are at 75% as a district. North Bend was at 70%. This includes North Bend High School and their virtual school. Coquille is at 41%, 87% for Myrtle Point, 84% for Bandit, Reedsport, and then Powers at 87%. Only Coos Bay, North Bend, and Coquille have an alternative education program to factor in. The other 3 districts, other 4 districts, because Myrtle Point, Bandit, Reedsport, Powers, that's just their high schools. They don't have an alternative program to factor in.
Destinations, so it's AYA, Marshfield, and destinations.
Is in the count, is in
that 75%?
Yep. And then Marshfield overall is at 75%. That includes Marshfield and AYA, not destination, which I'll get to in a second. And then North Bend High School is 85%, Coquille is 93%, Myrtle Point 87, 83 for Bandon, 66 for Reedsport, 87 for Powers. Alternative school graduation for the county. Destinations at 87%, highest graduation rate Destinations has ever had. It's fantastic.
How did like Coquille get their high school graduation rate so high? I mean, like, what is it that they've done? Like a lot of these schools over 80, 90, 87, like, what are they doing that we're not?
It's a good question that we need to ask. And I think looking at graduation, I can speak to when you have school districts that have alternative programs, sometimes you can do some things creatively to boost one's graduation rate and maybe not the other. But when you look at schools like Bandon, that they don't have an alternative school and they still have a good high graduation rate. So we probably need to ask those districts, what are you doing? I do know this, that again, the students that, and I'm not trying to blame this all on AYA, but we get students from all those districts that end up with AYA. And again, when we take those students, that's counted against Marshall's graduation rate. So those students that are maybe leaving North Bend, Coquille, anybody that comes into Scott's program is counted for Marshall. And I know Scott's doing the best he can with what he's got, and he's working his tail off to try to get those kids through. So I'm not trying to pin this on Scott or AYA. It's just the reality of how the numbers are counted. But I will also say this is, you know, Destinations has an 87% graduation rate. Then you look, you know, Evergreen Virtual and North Bend's 51 and Winter Lakes is 14%. So I can speak to a previous district that I worked in, and when they had students that weren't on track to graduate going into the last term, they were automatically sent to the alternative school. So the high school graduation rate stayed in the 90s, and the alternative school district grade for graduation was down in the 50s. Right. We don't do that here. So, and I think that there could be something to say for some of those districts, not ours. In looking at graduation rates to the similar comparison districts around the state, you can see Marshfield High School is at 75, Ashland 87, Cascade 94, Central 94. Crook County is, sorry, that's not right. Excuse me.
You skipped Astoria.
I skipped Astoria. Astoria in the green is 94. Cascade is 94. Central is 77. Crook County is 98. Pendleton is 94. Phoenix Talent 93. And South Lane is 85 in Cottage Grove. I have reached out to the Pendleton and Crook County superintendents that I know to kind of say, what are you guys doing? Actually, I'm teaching and learning director in Crook County. She's in the doctoral program. And so I reached out, and we've been going back and forth a little bit on some things. So like, what are you guys doing? Because as you're going to see in a second, like Crook County is at 98%. Their alternative school graduation rate is also at 97%. Right in Pioneer Secondary, the green one is in Crook County.
We're talking apples to apples.
We are with them. They're not an online. That's not an online alternative school. And so I'm asking, like, what are you guys doing over there to get a 98% at the high school and a 97% of your alternative school? And so those are conversations I'm having to kind of see what's going on.
Yeah.
Those are really
Curious.
good graduation rates for two programs.
But it's always been that way?
I don't know. This is just, I just looked at this year's. I did not look historically.
What cities are in Crook County?
Crook County's in Prineville. So it's 45 minutes east of Redmond. And so looking at our destinations rate of 87%, Cascade Opportunities, which is at 53%, they are mostly an online virtual program. But Pioneer Secondary in Crook County, 97% is a alternative ed program like Destinations. I'm going to butcher this. Nix. I don't know what that one is. It's in Pendleton. Nix-Waiawi Community in Pendleton and Hawthorne and Pendleton are both alternative programs. And they're at 80 and 72% graduation rate. Armadillo Community in Phoenix Talent is a alternative ed program, and they are at 56%. And then Al Kennedy is the alternative program for Southland School District, and they're at 39%. So Destinations, Kayla, they're doing a great job. And you know, you look and say we got 87% at Destinations, 75% at Marshfield, but we're still 75 overall. Well, I mean, Destinations graduation classes 10, 11, 12. It doesn't have that big bearing. We've added to Marshfield's.
You can either go really, really south or.
Yes, yeah.
I mean, it's gonna be where graduation rate go, just like students.
Yeah. I think the important thing though is we did see a 6% growth from last year. And our students are doing a great job right now at the high school. Talking with EY today, we're on track for about 7 kids to graduate with their associate's degree this year, which would be an all-time high for Marshall. So that's really some great things going on. And then I threw this in. This has nothing to do with graduation rates, but I wanted to show that we did our middle of the year Dibbles assessment last week, our reading assessment 2 weeks ago, excuse me. When we adopted Amplify as a curriculum and really started to embrace the science of reading in 2022, 23, when we did this middle of the year assessment, 38% of our kids were at benchmark, at or above benchmark, compared to 51. Looking at our middle of the year assessments from 2 weeks ago, we're up to 50% of our kids that are at benchmark compared to 55% national. So we are closing the gap with what Dibbles is seeing nationally and what we are seeing here at Coos Bay. So really proud of our 12% growth in 3.5 years and where we're seeing the national trends that our growth is outpacing the national trends. So you're going to get more data at the end of the month from our buildings, but that is what I have for data tonight.
But Dibbles is going away, correct? This is not one of the accepted.
It's not, but Dibbles has a dyslexia screener as part of it. And so we are planning on continuing to do the Dibbles assessment, even with the adoption of the other interim assessments, partially also because Dibbles is tied to our Amplify curriculum. And our intervention programs are tied to Amplify and Dibbles. And so we're going to do the other interim assessment whenever we adopt it. That's the state law. But we are going to also continue with our Dibbles because it's tied so close to our curriculum and our interventions. And we're seeing such great movement with it.
And there's not enough use of this program throughout the state to justify it being adopted as one of the valid.
No, and the irony is University of Oregon created Dibbles and many districts use Dibbles, but because Dibbles is primarily used as a dyslexia screener, ODE doesn't consider it an interim assessment, even though it's built into our curriculum as an interim assessment. Amplify M-Class uses it as an interim assessment. So, no, if ODE is not going to go back on that. I've heard they are going to, they paused the 4th interim assessment. It's not going to be the OSAS interim assessments. They're going to go out and get a 4th vendor, but I still don't think it's going to be the Dibbles. So, questions on those before I move on?
An opportunity for superintendent advocacy to change ODE's mind.
I don't think so at this point. We did get ODE to extend the grace period by a year for us to adopt, and they're committed to offering some funds to help out districts like us that purchased other interim assessments. That's as far as they were willing to go. And the disappointing thing is when they first said you can pick your local measurement, I was planning on picking Dibbles because we've made so much growth and we are starting to flip our triangle. I think it's a great thing to show ODE, and we're actually getting we're getting some street cred from ODE and from some of the legislators for what we've been doing with the science of reading out here on the coast. And so I was really excited about that being a possibility, but I think we'll go through an adoption process with a group of stakeholders to come up with what interim assessments we want to use for both the ELA and the so. Other questions, comments on the graduation rates or the Dibbles?
Student-to-teacher ratio in Cook County was 17:1. What's our teacher ratio? Teacher.
What's the overall student-to-teacher ratio?
Is it 21:1?
No, it's probably closer to 22:1, 23:1.
On a rough guess. Based on average sizes, probably not.
Which district was that? Crook?
Cook County District. I'm just looking at some of their demographics. They've got about just under 30% of their students are economically disadvantaged.
Yeah, they're a little higher economically.
And
Yeah.
so we're at like 60%. So I'm just looking at some of those factors. I mean, you'll find out more when you talk to her, but
Yeah.
we're definitely
Yeah.
a little bit different.
Yeah, we're same size school district.
Right.
Demographics are
A little different.
I think
yeah.
they're going to end up being in our cluster cohort though that ODE is going to assign us to. We were the first go round, so I'm assuming that they're gonna be there for them when they upload that. Okay, all right. Moving on, I appreciate the folks that met with Michael and I from Studer Education. And just want to go over a couple slides, have a discussion on Studer Ed, and hopefully come to some consensus. We don't need a board vote, but come to consensus on moving forward with the strategic planning process. Again, for the folks that weren't involved in meeting with Michael and Studer, these are some of the districts in Oregon that use Studer. Quite a few districts that are similar size to us. Baker, Banksville is smaller, Bethel's a little bigger. Central, Corvallis has been a Studer Education partner. Estacada, LeGrand, where the state superintendent of the year, George Mendoza, is in LeGrand. Pleasant Hill School District, Scappoose, Tim Porter, the superintendent of Scappoose, was the assistant superintendent in Cottage Grove when I was there many years ago. And then South Umpqua in Southern Oregon, ESD. These slides came straight from the Studer presentation. Strategic planning process: gather and analyze, take an environmental scan, have a steering committee, conduct focus groups, administrator surveys, aim for, review the data, input with the committee, identify potential core values, which I think we've already done some of that stuff. I feel confident that we're not starting over at square one when we do this. Define vision, top level measurable goals, and then identify core strategies for success and prioritize existing strategies. And then finally, put it into a plan that we can use as a district moving forward. Creating feedback loops, having a developed board presentation for approval through the strategic planning process. Part of the strategic planning process, the timeline: defining scope, developing a work plan, holding initial board meetings, and then forming an advisory committee, administering surveys. I know, Kim, you went through a lot of this when you did the strategic planning process with Dr. McGahee back in 2021, 22, 23. Holding focus groups, selecting a committee to analyze data and update the visions, values, developing a strategic plan components with a committee, seeking feedback, revising the draft plan, getting committee consensus, and then moving the strategic planning forward process on for approval and implementation. The key thing about Studer is they like to develop scorecards for the district, for the buildings. So they look at student achievement, they look at service, they look at people, financing, and then they let you pick another metric that you are interested in as one of your pillars in the district. And then they set some key annual goals, progress measures, strategic actions. One of the things I like about this is it's not only a district scorecard, it becomes a district scorecard that includes part of my evaluation. It becomes school scorecards that each building has. So there's accountability and it works its way down. There's a through line from the board all the way down to the students. The products that Studer offers, as we've discussed, is surveys, K-12 rounding, which I have been using the rounding platform, not their online platform, but using the rounding format in my meetings with staff, and I find it to be very valuable for the purposes of conversation. They offer coaching services, and then their learning lab for district program success. If we were to move forward, year one would include strategic planning and direction setting, facilitating a collaborative strategic plan process, clear mission, vision, set of strategic priorities. And then after that, strategic plan is developed, implemented. Then year 2 and 3 includes continued implementation and leadership development for myself and our building leaders. And again, it goes as a trickle down approach that Studer likes to use. Looking at what we would see with the strategic planning in year 1, we'd see 4 full site on day work sessions. We'd see virtual leadership strategies and working sessions, 2 half-day sessions. A strategic plan survey and a rollout package. So 1 strategic planning survey, monthly virtual coaching for leadership. You would see the 9 pillars of leadership excellence toolkit. We get 3 complete toolkits. Full access for rounding platforms. 15 users would be more than enough that we would need for anybody that's on the cabinet and all of our building leadership to have the rounding platforms they could use as they gather data, work with families, staff, students, to get voice on their strategic initiatives amongst their building, their leadership scorecards, and then a national educator superintendent roundtable session. So that would be year one. In year two, as we transition to leadership, we would get 2 full on-day sites visits, 3 half-day sessions, 3 focus areas for our annual surveys. We would continue to get the 12 virtual leadership coaching, those toolkits, the rounding platform, and then continued access to the roundtable. In talking with the superintendent group from the different districts when I was at the winter conference, I found kind of the way that many districts are paying for their strategic planning is through using their ESD Tier 2 dollars. We have several $100,000 at ESD in our Tier 2 dollars that can be possibly accessed. I have it on the agenda for the next regional ESD meeting. Again, in talking with those, there's actually several different superintendents in our ESD that are interested in accessing their Tier 2 dollars for some of these used for strategic planning. So my goal is to not use any district money, whether we were looking at different pockets to do this. Okay.
So what was our purpose of meeting with the student? Was it just
Informational.
informational? So you guys decided to go with Studer, and that's what
I looked at Studer, and then I looked at a company that another district was using. The company that the other district was using was a strategic planning platform, but they weren't. Their people weren't educators that were doing the strategic planning. Strategic planning was their platform. And in talking with the superintendent of that district, once they developed the strategic plan, they just kind of stepped away and they didn't continue to offer services after that. Just was a kind of a one-shot deal, and then they moved on.
Yeah.
And so they're actually thinking about switching over and using Studer as a follow.
I'm fine. That sounds fine to me. Like that's your purview and your decision. I thought us as a board, I thought that's the reason why we were getting information about it. So that was my misconception. I thought we were going to have input into it, but that's fine if we don't.
I mean,
Into what?
Into using Studer.
Oh,
I mean, it's quick. We need to have board input because it's going to be a district,
Well,
district.
We will in
strategic
the
plan.
strategic plan,
Well,
but
yeah,
not whether we use Studer or not.
I think it would be advantageous for the board to be supportive of using Studer.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah.
I'm totally fine with it. I'd like to go into a meeting to say, hey, this is what we've chosen to use. And we just want you to get to know this process. That's what I just didn't know that.
Okay.
So it's good to have that clarification.
Okay. Yeah.
But next time, I would like to know ahead of time. That's what we were going to do.
Other questions, comments?
no, but I did, tell Maybe made some comments, and sent them to me, and I did tell her that I would share them, so I just want to do that. Her comments were her. Why is it not in here?
And I'll make a comment while you're.
You go.
I guess my only comment about this is, strategic plans and leadership development. You get it, you get out what you put in. And so if we as a board and show up and commit to this, and if our leaders across the district show up and commit to this and take the feedback and take the coaching, we can see real benefits. If we spend the money and let them come talk at us, we won't see any benefits. And so this is one of those things that there is a significant time commitment to doing it right.
Yep.
And so it sounds like because this offers wraparound services and coaching and access for people. But I think, I would encourage you, Gary, to champion and model for your leaders in the district. No, we're really going to use this, and we're going to use each piece of it because it's a significant investment of time, energy, and money.
Yeah.
We'll get out of it.
100%. Thank you.
Okay, Maydie's comments are, I am in support of pursuing a partnership with Studer. When we met with the team, they presented a clear and detailed outline of their methodology and a clear understanding of the types of data they can collect for our district and their accompanying strategies for building consensus, shared goals, and a vision for CBSD that is built inclusively.
So her vote, word of vote, yes.
Yeah, she voted yes. Arnie sent me something too, which I can't, is embedded in some other email in here. But he said he was in support of it because new superintendents needed guidance.
And he is accurate in that statement. Yeah. So the next step for the next step, if we were to get, I think consensus again, we don't need a vote, but consensus is, I want to make sure that we can take it from our ESD tier $2. That's the first thing, and that's coming up in a couple weeks. And then if that turns out to be accurate, which I think it will be, then I would like to start looking at forming the steering committees and moving to the next steps of work to get this thing off the ground. I think time is of the essence. They say it's about a 5 to 7 month process. And so I feel like waiting to August to start or even July is I'd rather get us going. And the sooner we get it going, the sooner we do it right, the better off we're going to have it.
And I understand that we have a document to use sort of as a jumping off point, the strategic plan that you guys developed.
Yeah, I think we there's some components in there that for sure we can look at. I think that we can help steer some of the, like, when we go to do the surveys, are we still finding the same things from families? Because we've transitioned a lot since then in terms of like AP online, some of those areas that just weren't there then because we didn't, I mean, they're new concepts from previous leaders and we kind of stuck with them. So I think there's some things there that we can definitely use as a foundational piece to say, is this still where we're at?
Just for my education as a new board member, the ESD tier $2, what is that for?
Yes, so
Yeah, is that the only thing it can pay for?
no, so ESD has tier $1 and tier $2. Tier $1 is essentially part of it helps pay for the operation of it. But also it's like auditory services is a tier $1. All the districts take advantage of it. There's an early childhood component screening. All of the district, our vector training, some of our eye visions that we use is a tier 1. All the districts use that. Tier 2 is when we were paying for life skills. That was a tier 2 service. We were paying that for that service through the ESD, but maybe Reedsport wasn't, or Coquille wasn't, North Bend was, or wasn't. We offer this, and so if the ESD doesn't offer a service and you want that service, you can request that funding to be transferred to you through tier 2 pass-through dollars to use to buy that. So they do not offer strategic planning as a tier 2 service. At this point,
So we have a stream of revenue that passes through the ESD that you can use this much. We're using less than that much.
yes,
And so we could essentially pay for it out of money that we're just not using right now.
correct.
So it comes to the state school fund. ESDs get a portion of it based on the median of their region, and then they legally to allocate 95% of that allocation to their districts. And so our allocation passed for as long as I can see, because all of it is entirely on a debit by skills. This is the first year we're not actually paying ESD over $1 million. It's typically we like so far above. And so we really worked on how to spend all of that money. while not using life skills. So others, autism evaluations, OTPT, those sorts of things will be currently purchase services. That's what Paul was going to do that. They kind of give us a menu.
Right, you can order it. So like Powers, if they wanted to get a speech therapist, it would be better for them to go through
Yes.
because they have less students. So, yeah.
This is the first year we have about 300,000 left, as of the last building cycle. Not being some other. Maybe six, until we can reset it.
Yeah, the thing is, there's only a limited amount of things you can request. This was kind of interesting, like when I was talking with the couple of superintendents at the winter conference. I said, I don't know how much to pay for it. Like, I didn't say I didn't know how. I just like, that's my concern.
Right.
And they're like, oh, we use our tier $2 because of this, for this, and this. I was like, well, that's like normal.
Every ESC setup is so different and they find the strengths. And so some of it, they pass it all to you and you can do whatever. And some,
Yeah,
our LSP is built different.
Yeah,
So-
so Neil really had redone that whole system to help out with, smaller districts needing it. So,
She runs our Friday forum every week.
yeah, she did a great job.
And so that's the next step is on the 19th is our next regional ESD meeting, and it's on the agenda. So, and there are a couple other superintendents that were also at the winter conference that are asking for that to be on the agenda too. So
So you're gonna solidify that.
I want to solidify that piece first.
And you'll probably
and-
just send us an email
Yeah.
saying, hey, found out this is totally
Yeah.
cool, we're gonna do this.
And if it doesn't work that way, then I'm going to go back to the drawing board and I'll keep you guys.
Okay.
So,
Any other questions?
all right. We got two more. You're all right. Just couple, just for February events. I have coffee with the superintendent on Wednesday. I also have a town hall over at Sunset. I'm planning on presenting just a couple of items, some glows and grows for Coos Bay schools, and then taking questions from whoever's in attendance. The town hall the following week also at the fire station. And then we have our board data night on the 23rd. And then I have various superintendent solution sessions in the building scheduled for February. That's why I just kind of put 24th to the 27th. And then David and I were meeting today, and it looks like we've finalized another community event with our tribal folks for April that I'm going to be attending an event out at the Learning Center, a dinner, a family event, and then talking to families about how Coos Bay Schools is supporting our tribal students. Got that coming up. Just re-put the flyers in for the town halls and coffee with the superintendent. I'm going to continue doing the coffee with the superintendent and continue my getting to the different areas of our community. So I'm at Lady Bread in Charleston on Wednesday, and then I'll probably move back towards town. And then, it's a little hard to find something in Eastside for coffee, but I'm going to try to see about the D Street Cafe, Daryl's place over there, and see if I can go there.
Grangeville, you might be able to get the Grangeville.
And over in Eastside?
Over in East Side.
Where's that?
Oh, not East Side, that's on the other side. Never mind.
Okay.
Take it
I was like, I didn't know there's a Grange all over that.
I didn't know.
And I talked about using the fire stations over at Eastside, but some of the fire stations don't have bathrooms that are
Yeah.
accessible. And so if worse comes to worse, I'll just go to Millicombe or Eastside here. But I wanted to be outside of the schools and try to get into
The libraries might be able to.
libraries might be able to help too. Yeah. Okay, I'll check that out. And then here's the Restaurant O flyer, March 14th. It's a Saturday, 6 p.m. Kids fundraiser for the culinary arts program. And my daughter is in the culinary arts. She's doing the beginning culinary class. I've had to have conversations with her because she tends to leave her Spanish classes and migrate over to culinary arts for a snack. But we're working on that. And lastly,
But is she cooking at home?
she's bringing home some good stuff. I'm not gonna lie. There's been some cheesecakes brought home and some things that's been put together. Lastly, just want to put up some pictures of some of our kiddos. We got some East Side kids that did a little art walk right there in the middle. Those are the Sunset Positive Behavior Students of the Month. On the far right, we have the Marshville production of Dracula that took place this last month. Lower left, Sunset did an art project with Choshi, Japan, the sister city, Coos Bay. In the middle, we had a choir concert there with Mr. Aker. And then on the far right, we had some art students with idiositis that had some display at the Coos Bay Art Museum. And so just want to recognize those
Oh, I was
kids.
just gonna say,
Yes. So, and that's it for me.
Can you get those flyers emailed to us for?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we're going to get them posted on
They're on
social
Facebook.
media.
I put them
Oh,
up today.
thank you, David. But we'll get an email.
Yeah, I'll email them.
Did you guys want some online numbers? While you were talking, I was frantically pulling stuff up.
All right, Brenda. Yeah, if you want to get some online numbers, that's great. It saves me the walk down the hall.
But yeah, I don't have to walk to the hogs. I've got it right here. I just was not quick enough and I didn't want to interrupt. Okay, I have a total of 208 kids as of today. 93 9 through 12 hybrid. 61 full online. Now, when it says hybrid, it means they could have 4 classes online, which would be a full-time seat, but they also have in-person seats. I have 7 6 through 8 hybrid, 26 6 through 8 full online. I have 5 K through 5 hybrid, and I have 16 K through 5 full-time.
perfect, thank you.
Thank you, Brenda.
Brenda,
I can email that if you'd like, so you have a hard copy, Maureen.
that would be wonderful. Thank you.
Will do.
Thanks, Brenda. Much appreciated.
Okay, so there's that information.
Nailed it.
Okay, next on our agenda is policy updates.
All right.
Mr. Cagley.
Does anyone have any prospective policies they would like the policy committee to review?
I have a question, actually.
Sure.
And I'm sorry for missing the last policy committee. At one point, when we had Dr. Ainsworth, we were talking about reviewing policies about weighted and unweighted UPAs for the high school. I don't know if you remember this, David, but it was something that we were going to look at in policies because we were having kiddos who were like all valedictorians, which is great because they got 4.0s, but you have these kiddos over here who are taking AP classes and getting A's, and then you have kiddos who are taking their basic courses and getting A's, which is great no matter how you look at it, but it was just reevaluating or possibly relooking at, is that something we want to look at in our policies? I don't even know if that's for the policy board or if that's somewhere else.
I smiled as soon as you said it because when I took the interim position, there were a list of items. And one of them was weighted grades, and Dr. Hayes was like, "Don't touch this year." And I was like, "Okay." And he was like, "Just sit on it for a while with AP seminar and everything." I was like, "All right." I was at a school district that went through the process of going from unweighted to weighted GPAs for the sole perspective of really identifying valedictorians and going from like 7 to 2, 7 to 1. Because of those things, you would have students that would take one path track. For example, the previous school district, and you have a student that would take 4 PEs and a wood shop and an auto class, and they would be the valedictorian with 4 points with this against the students that had AP dual credit, and so that I think is a process that would have many stakeholders involved from the high school, staff involved, lots of discussions. I'm not opposed to it. Especially with our expansion of some AP courses and honors diplomas and things of that nature. I think it's just a big discussion that we need to get a lot of people involved in because and also look at, I think one of the things when you do that is when do you implement that kind of policy? You know, you don't want to implement something to a senior class that wouldn't have the opportunity to make the adjustments needed to get the GPA track. Kind of equity piece. So, but no, I think it's something that we could look at the policy committee, but it's probably something before policy committee. I need to get a lot of input from high school staff, administrators, and have a good solid plan when it comes to policy committee. But I'll look into it.
Yeah, I was just curious. I just remember it coming up, and I just wasn't sure if we had ever had anything of that. So that was it.
Okay. So the first readings for adoption are there. I won't go through them all. They're available for you to look through. If you have any questions or concerns, please reach out to me. And
Can I ask about the IFCA 21st Century School Councils?
sure,
We have those?
Yes,
yes.
we call them site councils.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah,
That's what I thought, but that's not when I go to site council, but it's not called 21st Century.
yes, and I'll tell you, this is why these readings and going through these policies is important. Because when we had this in policy committee, I was like, we need to sharpen up some of our practices and site councils based on these policies. We were able to take, David created a nice little cheat sheet for each administrator so that each building knew exactly what components needs to be involved in site council. Because we had addressed that in several years about what you must have. You must have, they knew that we need to have it posted. We need to have your agenda posted and it's all this and that.
I mean, when I've gone through several years having many kids in different site councils or many kids in different schools and all the site councils. The site councils, since my kids have graduated, they all seem very different in the facts. Like back before, it was more, there was parents involved and there was more talk about actually the sites and stuff like that. Now it seems like there's staff meetings and like I just show up to a staff meeting that's completely just mostly a staff meeting or another meeting that they're calling site council. And that's happened like a couple years in a row now. And I'm like, oh, I don't think this is what we used to do. So has it changed?
My first year in the district, our site council was very much around our title plans and how we were using our Title I dollars in the building. Whether we were, what was family engagement and what was student engagement, what we were using for incentives and all these things. Then the title plans shifted from the building level to the district office in terms of how we were going to use the funds. And so then they've kind of morphed into, many of them are using them as their building implementation teams for ORTII and science reading. So they're going over their data and things like that. We did have a couple buildings that were using that kind of took their site council and invited the families and the board member to basically be within staff. That was one of the things that came up in the policy committee. Like, oh, you can have no more than half of your staff involved.
Well, so all
And so,
the staff.
right, and so those are the things with that, when we looked, we're like, hey, we have some things we got to sharpen our pencil on a little bit here.
Yeah.
And that was one, is making sure. And so that's why David created a sheet for like, this is, we went over it as an admin team, like, this is what you gotta have, and this is how these need to go. And hopefully some more alignment. Now, I think at the high school, you're gonna see more,
The high
you're gonna see
school
a
had a
different
great-
meeting than you would at the K6.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He was very good because there were a lot of
Yeah.
parents, a lot of administrator and teacher, and Eli goes over everything
Yeah, I
from,
was on that part.
enrollment to sporting events. So, and how kids are doing in different areas
Yeah.
of study. So his is a good one.
Yeah, I've been to those when Travis was there. I mean, back.
Well, and Arnie talked about when he was the principal, that's how all building funds were directed, is you had to come present to the site council if you wanted funds to get calculators for math or whatever. You had to come and do a presentation. If it was about
So I'm just wondering, because I don't see a lot of advertisement to families about site council at the elementary school level, like, hey, come be involved in this. And a lot of times people were just like, because at one school I had my grandchild who was in custody with me, and I happened to be a parent and school board member, and they're like, oh, we're gonna put you down as a parent, like the rest of our staff here who were also parents, so you can count for both. And I was like, well, I think that's really the way that site council is supposed to go. I think it's supposed to be open to parents. But if you don't have it on the calendars,
Yeah.
it's not on any of our
Well, and
calendars.
so the two main components that we identified when we were going through this that are areas for growth is the makeup of the site councils, which you mentioned. There is a specific breakdown that we have to follow as best as possible. And then the other component is public meeting law. They are required. They're beholden to public meeting law, not the recording, but they do have to keep minutes, they do have to post the agenda, they do have to stick to the agenda, and they have to publicly announce.
And that's how it used to be.
And so those are things that we identified were maybe not happening everywhere. So in my cheat sheet, that was actually what I had suggested for their public announcement is put this on your events calendar on the first page of your website, link your agenda in that events calendar so that people can see what you plan to talk about. And that satisfies two components of your announcement.
Okay.
Now you should also announce it in Parent Square and other
Yeah.
places, but that's a good place to start is get it on the calendar first and
Yeah,
foremost.
and I have to contact the school and say, sir, can it be a site council meeting? Thinking, well, what other parents are like thinking, oh, I would like to be a part of this,
Mhm.
especially like we're looking at the times and it seems like some of them were like just most convenient for staff. And I stopped going to one because I was like, well, this is all 100% staff meeting. And it felt really, I even told the
You
principals,
felt uncomfortable.
yeah, I said, this is very awkward. There's no place for me as a parent or even a board member, really. So
So-
I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah, so, going back to that's 21st century schools and a really good reason we have policy committee because we were able to, analyze policies and look back, oh, we need to really do a better job in these areas of this policy.
Why can't we just call this site councils? And instead of calling it something we don't have?
It's a really good question. I'll dig into why it is called that.
The law requires 21st century school.
Oh,
So it's a component of the OAR
Okay.
that requires us to have site councils.
Okay.
We can call it internally whatever we want,
but
but
now
the reason it's in the
official.
policy is because it officially satisfies that law.
You can
Okay,
probably
thank you.
call it parentheses site council
Yeah.
in the title or something.
Yeah, no, that absolutely
Yeah,
could happen.
exactly.
Or even, in the policy, it could say, we define this as site councils,
Okay.
which it may actually say that. Were there any other questions by first reading?
I don't remember it saying that. If it had said that, I think I would have
I was gonna
Yes,
say,
didn't say that.
known what it was when I was like.
It does not say site councils.
Okay,
It would be useful.
okay, we can make a note.
I think, if we end up going with the, student, education and strategic plan, it's that site council might actually be revamping and reinvigorating site councils may be a really important way to disseminate the findings and the plan to our community and building leadership and stuff. Invigorating that could do.
Yes, I agree. Agreed.
And then I wanted to ask about student publications and things, IGDB. The one that struck me was there was this in there that if a student disagrees with they've been told that they cannot publish something at the school, that the principal only has the principal has 8 hours to render a decision. And if the principal says no, then another 8 hours starts and the superintendent or their designee has to say no. And I was wondering why the specificity of the 8 hours, and does that actually seem reasonable timeline for,
My guess is that it's quickly because they want to go to press. Something has been submitted and it's on the eve of press, going to press, and so they need decisions quickly about whether or not it's going to rush. That would be my guess.
there was just like very, very specific
Yeah.
language about this is 8 hours and like in certain days of the week and times when
Times
it
of
restarts,
day
times of
and-
day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't have the answer off the top of my head,
Yeah,
but
that's okay.
generally when something's specified so diligently in the policy, it's associated with an OAR or a statute that we have to follow. Like generally the board, as long as I've done policy committee, wouldn't elect to, let's just say 8 hours. There's
Try not
usually it comes from one of the associated laws that's linked below, but I'll look into that. I can't tell you exactly why that is, but it's been the case.
it's a good question though, because we found in the past that we had some that the OERs had changed. We're like, we had it in their script, we're looking at it. But OSB is usually good about telling us
Yeah,
Oh, that changes.
I want to make
It
it
just,
note.
it seemed to be holding the adults to a very high,
It
and
does say-
speedy standard.
it's where the material is prepared for broadcast or publication. So my guess is it's the timeliness of having to present that material for publication.
Yeah, I'll look into any ORSs associated with it and I'll let you know if I find what I find.
Yeah. If we don't have to,
Yeah,
ask our administrators to be that timely, maybe we shouldn't.
I absolutely
Exactly.
agree. So yeah, I'll look into that, and if that's not a statute or something, then we can certainly take it back to the drawing board and maybe give ourselves a little more time. Did you have any other comments on any of the policies for first reading?
No, just those.
Okay.
anybody else? You should have gotten some last minute ones from David this afternoon.
What's that?
You sent out last minute updates on some of them, correct?
I just that they were posted on our website.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, as I get those in from
Yeah.
OSBA, that they're now officially posted after you have adopted them. So the ones that are now posted on our website were posted last Friday,
Okay.
and they're from our January 12th meeting. So generally, I send them the week of the board meeting, and they take a while to review them and make sure that we didn't do anything crazy, and then they post them on our website for us. And then we have a couple first reading for adoption. One of them is the IF curriculum development. We're not getting rid of curriculum development. We just are adopting a new version. So at the same
This is the
time,
one for deletion, not adoption, right?
yes. So there is one above for adoption as
Yeah.
well. That's the new version. So as we delete one, we'll be adding the new one in its place. And then the other one is not something that's hosted by OSBA, and we determined that it was no longer needed. I did want to also share, let me pull it up here. So I had mentioned, and some of you were not on the board when we started the policy analysis about this time last year. But I had mentioned it a few times that we were drawing near towards the end, and we're almost there. So right now, this is kind of how it has started. We had 256 of our policies that were deemed adequate, 126 that need reviewed or revised. Those are the ones we're working through now, that in many cases, no suggested language was given. It was just, it's been a while since you've updated this, like the 21st century schools. And that's why, as Gary mentioned, not only is policy committee so important, but this policy analysis has been so valuable, is it gives us an opportunity to dive into policies we otherwise wouldn't have, and we wouldn't have identified those problems. We had 5 missing and required. Most of those were marked missing and required because we had a policy update that we hadn't worked all the way through yet, but they were in the pipe as we had the analysis done. So yes, they weren't on our website, but we were working on putting them there. So those are all done. We had 5 missing that were highly recommended. Those are all taken care of as well. We did not adopt all of them because some of them were conditional on if your school has its own transportation program, you must have this policy. Well, we didn't, so some didn't apply. So all missing and required policies have been adopted. 108 policies so far have been reviewed or revised to ensure that they meet current standards. 95 outdated policies have been deleted. We did choose to retain 6 of those policies that OSBA said we could delete because we found they were valuable. We have 18 policies left to review as part of this policy analysis. Those will be done next Thursday at our policy committee meeting. I will have all 18 of them on the agenda. And most of them are really small, so like a couple paragraphs. So we'll go through those, and then my expectation is with the timeline of first reading and then second meeting adoption, that by April 13th board meeting, we will be completely done with the policy analysis. So yes.
It'll still be Ron's work and everything will change the following year.
Yes, oh, absolutely. I'm,
Yeah,
knock on
Right back
wood,
to the top.
the only reason that we're at this point is because Spencer hasn't sent out a policy update since August.
Yeah.
So I worked through that one real quick in August and got back on policy
Yeah.
analysis, and I've just been hammering as many as we can get through so that we can get through it before they dump another
Send out
25
another
policies.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Well, and thank you for all of the policy committee members and the thoughtful conversation that comes. It's really valuable. And I learn a lot. I hope that many of you have already been on policy committee. I'm excited for you to be on it next year, Derek. It's a good opportunity to hear different perspectives, and the conversations that come from it is really valuable.
And Arnie can give you all the historical perspective.
Arnie
Arnie
is,
goes, hey, we adopted this back in
Yeah.
79, and this is why.
when he's done on the board, I'm still invited into policy committee. We need the historian here. Why did this happen?
So fun.
And then he gives you the legislative component.
I
Yes,
know.
yeah.
Mhm.
Maybe we can create a new position, board historian.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Okay, are there any other questions about policies? Hearing none. Last issue on our agenda is board items and board member highlights. I'll start over here with Kim.
Oh, my biggest highlight, something that Kevin's very sad that he missed, which was our tour of Sunset, and Eric and I went, and we were able to see everything that is being worked on, including the roof. We went on the roof. It was so exciting and scary,
Yeah.
but it's so enlightening to see, where they've tried to patch it, and then the flatness of the roof. And I was telling Kevin about how it, like, the crevasses in the roof that go towards the middle, and then there's puddles on it. You
Yeah.
can see, and then just walking down the hallways, the brown
Seeing
spots.
Saints.
Yeah, so it's a
Which are,
really,
which are all new because they put in new tiles.
Yes.
All in a year.
just that roof leaking is just gonna be flooding it, so.
Yeah.
Good decision to get it all done at once.
I believe historically it's leaked since it reopened. 2000s.
Yeah, Mulkey was there when it was burning down. I was there too.
I was a
Eric-
sixth grader when it burned down.
Yeah, I was like a seventh grader, I believe, when it burned down, and yeah, he did ask if you were out there too. No, that was you. Asked if he was out there.
I was a sixth grader, I was sleeping.
I was out there watching it burn. It's like, after you set it on fire.
No, I was in like fourth grade.
You were just a baby.
I was at Charleston School.
Yeah. So, yeah, it's amazing to see the work they've done. I mean, the lighting, I was there when the gym floor was redone like 6 years ago.
Yeah.
I just said, do we, at some point, do we have to prove that for the roof to get on?
Yeah, so in the next budget cycle, we'll
Next
do
week's.
that. Because there's quite a process that will not for some short-term debt. But in order, there's not really.
No,
We've
it
really
really
tried.
tries so much more to piecemeal it together. As like Loma said, sitting at the staging area each time they do a piece of it.
The RFP process.
Yeah.
alone,
Oh, alone. Yeah, absolutely.
There won't be a more cost-effective, beneficial way for the district to do it. So that is something that I'll bring at budget cycle this year.
And I'm 100% for that. So I already looked at this yesterday.
Well, I still need to.
I know. So, and then what else happened? Oh, the historical meeting for David. Oh,
You did
man,
great.
you and the sound, that was so unfortunate, but the meeting was great. We had for those of you that weren't in the room, there was a big echo. It was very hard to hear. I could feel a little bit of her frustration because back in the back, it was hard to understand what she was saying.
It was hard
So-
to front too.
Okay, so
It was bad everywhere.
it was so hard. And so when it came to asking questions, I could tell she was like, okay, like I said in my presentation, it's like, oh, she doesn't know. I don't think that we couldn't hear it because.
Oh, she knew.
Oh.
She tried to apologize for being a little bit off because she was getting feedback, and I will fully admit here, it was my fault trying to be proactive.
Oh,
I didn't know that room had surround sound hooked to the front monitor. So I'm like, great, there's TVs everywhere. Everyone's gonna be able to hear. So I spent 15 minutes before the meeting turning up all the TVs
Oh
so
my
that the people in the
gosh.
back could hear. And then as I turned them off, like, oh, this is way better. And you could still hear back here.
Yes.
So that was a
Yeah.
fault of mine, not understanding the room I was in. Because I had played music and it sounded great, but nobody was trying to talk through the other end.
Exactly.
So I even tested it and it sounded good, but I didn't test it with the live meeting. So I have learned that lesson. But that was completely on me. I'll take full ownership for the feedback.
David was fantastic, running around, turning it off. I think there was like, I don't know, Beetlejuice in there because it kept turning back on. I was like, you just.
I
turned
can't
that
explain that part. I
And we
won't
were-
take
they
Yeah,
ownership
they
of that.
did go right back on. It was funny. After about 5 minutes, they went right back on.
And so he was just running around trying to like where I saw pit stains. and
Yeah,
he
because
was
all of a
like,
sudden you'd be
"Yes."
sitting there and you'd hear perfectly well, then all of a sudden be that thing where you're getting the
Yeah.
feedback from listening on the front and on the side.
I thought I was
But it
having a
went
stroke.
away once you turned off the
I
thing.
was like, is this sounding like this for everybody else or is it just me? And then my husband said, I think you might be having a stroke. So I wasn't sure how it sounded to everybody else.
So,
Yeah, thanks. Thank you.
anything else, Kim?
No.
Mr. Sick Man?
No, I had a bug and I don't get sick. It was like the first time in 6 years. For real, so it was like, man, cold bad.
I'm sorry, because
Yeah.
it's been going around and
I knew you wouldn't miss the Sunset Roof Expedition unless you
Yeah.
were having a fever.
Yeah, and I was like, if I show up in a mask, I'm gonna really freak people out.
yeah.
So
I'm glad you didn't.
I didn't have COVID or anything, I just had a bug, but it
You
sucked.
didn't.
Well, good. I'm glad you're back. Diane?
I don't have too much. I definitely, just huge shout out to everybody at Sunset, down to Taryn, Ashley, Rachel Lindsay, Kara Davidson, Chad Scriven. They have some, which I'm sure in all schools, some really challenging, situations with kids and, for them to remain so kind and empathetic and just really caring and always keeping the kids' best interests at heart. It's really, really, really impressive over there. And yeah, they're just such a fantastic group of people. And the way that they also let the kids come in and start over the next day, like the previous day didn't happen, is huge. Like, I think we all need that. Like, tomorrow's over, today's a new day, and I'm just really, really, really grateful. And I've seen it not just with my own personal experiences over there, but with other kiddos that are struggling too. So, just a big, big, big shout out to the Sunset team over there.
They've done some great job with systems, both behaviorally and academically. So we're starting to see a lot of gains from that building and also a lot of positive feedback from families
Yeah.
and community members on the west side.
I had to say something really quickly about Sunset too, because when we were there, I talked to the lunch staff and shout out to Spencer and Kathy. They were making sandwiches and they were so sweet. And Spencer talked to me about how great it was to work feeding the kiddos, and that's always a special place in my heart. Growing up hungry, so I love you so much, you guys.
Yeah. And the SRO. What is our SRO?
Kristen Smith.
Yes, he is amazing. The SRO he's really good. I really like him.
This is one that's leaving.
No.
No.
These are the-
Rob left.
Yeah.
Officer attack.
Who's the new one?
Tristan Smith.
Smith.
Officer
Oh,
Smith.
yeah.
Okay.
He took trespass.
Jared, do you have anything?
Yeah, I got to attend the 3 through 5 OBOG battle that was done at the North Bend High School, and we had representatives from Sunset, Millicoma, just multiple other schools around the area, and got to see some great battles. Those kids really know those books. They're really the books that the librarians pick out for the students are really fabulous. It's a treat to get to hear those and go through those with my boys and then see them compete in that event. But our librarians across the district have done a fabulous job of encouraging participation in that. And I do think that has it aligns well with our district goal of having something that everybody can do, low barrier to entry, high impact in terms of getting people excited about literacy. And so our librarians should be really proud of their ongoing efforts in that.
If you ever want a pressure situation, be an OBOP judge. You butcher a character name, they will call you on it. And they know those books.
Yeah.
I was very impressed by the North Bend High School principal. She was delivering one of the battles I watched. She was cool under some really, really long, difficult names.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
they're great. I grew up saying that too. I moderate OBOB. So I've gone to like a couple sessions now. Catherine Hasten's obviously great. And I think we've got a tournament coming up. And if you guys ever want to volunteer, timekeepers, scorekeepers, moderators, it's a lot of fun. I've done it now a couple years in a row. And it's great.
And we've had some good success. Our junior highs went to state the last couple of
Yes.
years. With Mill Conquer went to state a few years ago.
Yeah, and it's so funny when the kids are like, I didn't read that book. I have no idea.
Anything else? Okay, I went to a swim meet. Yeah, and I got there and nothing was happening. It had been canceled.
Oh, no.
I was so excited. It was my birthday. This is something I was going to do for myself. And I get there and I'm like, wait, these meets are over really quickly, aren't they? I mean, kids swam. Meets never left and we're over this quickly, but it had been canceled.
4 hours.
Yeah. Arnie, Derek, and I all have been working on the lighthouse contract over the last month, and I think we're almost at a point where something's going to happen. I went to the charity pageant on Sunday. Saturday. Yeah, that was really fun. I did not know what to expect, but with those babies in their hands, they were so cute. And the same historical meeting about making Marshfield on the National Register. So that's something we're going to have to talk about as it goes forward. There is a financial piece to it, and it was fun because as I walked out, I said to Loma, who was sitting in the back, so how much of your maintenance budget do you want to give up for this? And he looked at me and he goes, that's a really hard question.
Yeah.
I don't think it would come out of the maintenance budget though.
Looked like it was about $2,000.
Yeah, and they've got help for that.
I think we can find money to do those, but I mean, it was interesting. It was a really interesting meeting.
Yes.
Have a full pros and cons discussion of that.
Yeah.
Is that something that we'd like to tentatively add to our March regular board meeting agenda?
Good idea.
And did we decide?
We might want to talk.
I'm sorry.
I was just gonna say, was that Cricket who had brought that up at the beginning and wanted to do it for us?
I don't know that she wanted to do it for us, but she wanted us to do it.
Well, that's the thing is, there's a lot of, it's not the money, it's just.
It's the
Well, I
time.
think that,
They have that class though, that's all invested in doing it.
I think that whatever we determine to do, Cricket will be an asset to whoever does
Yeah.
that, whether it's her or someone
Right.
else.
What, can we invite her to that meeting now in case we have questions?
Yeah.
In March?
Yeah.
I mean, she seems like a wealth of information.
Mhm.
Her daughter did the one for, the cemetery. So,
So kind of how I looked at next steps and let me know if you agree with this is bring it to the board meeting for a full pros and cons discussion, determine if it's something we'd like to pursue, and then kick it to the facilities meeting to work on how we get it done. Or do you want to do that as a full board or create a
no, I don't want the
subcommittee?
whole board to do that. That's-
It could be a subcommittee.
I'm just thinking facility committee. I don't know. I'm on that committee.
I think she's got that.
It's good. We don't, it gives us something to do, you know?
Yeah, I think that's a good,
All right, fine.
Within the first
Wait,
phase.
I just don't want you saddled with that.
well, I think it's going to come to the whole board first, and
Well,
then
yeah,
we'll
yeah, yeah.
determine whether or not we're gonna pass it on.
I say we go for it, but I just don't, I want somebody else to do it for us.
Of course.
We're gonna have to ask Cricket to find us somebody.
Well, I mean, her
I
daughter
think
just.
there were a number of people there that were willing to work on it.
Yeah, there were so many people there.
That was one thing that I will note is
My
Well,
goodness.
it was a great attendance, but what I didn't hear was any pushback at all.
No,
No.
There was no one there that was to say, we should not do this
no,
for
people
these
in the
reasons.
back
That
were
did not
like, we thought
exist.
this was already done. They were whispering, isn't this already? Why is this not? I'm like,
So it seemed from of course, we kind of self-selected the community of people that would come out to a meeting
Yeah.
like that. But they all seemed
eager.
eager to
Move
pursue this.
forward.
So I don't expect, unless there's just people in the woodwork, that will have huge community backlash. But that's something we could talk about in our April meeting and pros and cons.
Okay, is there anything else? Hearing none, this meeting is adjourned
Thank you.
Thank you.
Great
Have a
evening.
night.
at 7:50.
Yes, I think that's the
Before
earliest